right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our Learning and Growing webinar. Our topic today is exploring soft skills development among undergraduate students attending an HBCU. Our presenters today are Dr. Whitney Wall and Dr. Karryll Phillips of Fayetteville State University. My name is Ellen, and I am your moderator today for Hawks Learning. We will have a live Q&A session after the presentation, so please enter in any questions you might have into the Q&A as we go. And now I'm going to hand it over to our presenters.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, I am Dr. Whitney Wall from Fayetteville State University, and I'll let my colleagues say hello as well.
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Whitney. I am Dr. Karryll Phillips here at Fayetteville State University as well. And we both are in the Department of Psychology.
Great. Thank you. Well, so I'm going to go ahead and start our session with just giving an overview of the importance of soft skills and some of the work that we've been doing at Fayetteville State University. And we're going to talk about some pilot research we've done and talk about some grant-funded projects and also just talk about the literature that we found on the development of soft skills among undergraduate students. And Karryll is going to spend a lot of time talking about specific classroom activities that have been piloted through a grant-funded project that she has been the PI on, the leader of, and she'll give some examples of ways that hopefully you all can leave with some ideas of specific things that you can start doing right now within the classroom to help develop soft skills among your students. And just, to give you some background on the literature, there's really not a specific definition of what soft skills are, which is a critique of kind of the work that we're trying to do on soft skills. Varying definitions exist within different fields and different studies that we've found, but oftentimes soft skills refer to skills such as time management skills, emotion regulation, compassion or empathy, leadership skills, and all the various skills that fall under that umbrella of leadership skills, and then effective communication and interpersonal skills. And that seems to be really the kind of central theme of most definitions of soft skills, is that emphasis on interpersonal relationships and being able to connect effectively with other people, to have effective interpersonal relationships, and to be able to communicate effectively with others. And so soft skills have been growing in importance, or there's been calls for increasing a focus on developing student soft skills over the past decade. And this has been especially relevant even more recently with the just really drastically changing landscape of academia and the workforce because of artificial intelligence. So we're finding that as the use and dependence on artificial intelligence is increasing, there is an emphasized need for soft skills among all majors and all students. So where maybe traditionally students in more of the social sciences or in psychology, counseling, human resources were more kind of naturally being taught some of these soft skills or worked on developing these soft skills. Now we're finding that with the advent of AI, these skills are becoming even more important for students of all majors, including the STEM fields. And so this really has a direct relationship to the changing role of how humans are operating in the workforce. And as we see AI and robots being increasingly relied on for the technical work, coding and all sorts of different technical work, any work that can be programmed, we tend to see it kind of being us relying more heavily on artificial intelligence and less on human capital. However, soft skills, which can't be programmed, are becoming a lot more important as a result of that. And so, let's see.
Sorry, Whitney, we weren't able to see your screen. I was letting Karryll know, but she jumped in. Okay, just wanted to let you know.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're not missing much, just some text on the PowerPoint. But yeah, so yes. Now with these soft skills that can't be programmed are becoming more important. And so not less and less humans are being relied on to do the technical work, and more humans are being relied on to oversee artificial intelligence work and to do more of the higher level, macro level integration of AI into the workforce. And that really requires a lot of soft skills and the ability to work effectively with other people and AI at the same time to kind of do this higher level integration and processing. So we're seeing an increased focus on the use of soft skills in workplaces across all majors. So work across all majors in different areas. And we can switch to the next slide, Karryll. And so as we're, hearing these calls for a growing importance of helping our students develop these soft skills, again, in all majors, including STEM and more technical, traditionally technical fields, there's barriers that are being faced. And I know one being there's a lack of a consistent definition of soft skills. So when we're talking about soft skills, everyone might have a different idea of what that means and what that looks like. And so that is definitely something that is a barrier to progress, just having kind of a lack of a consistent definition. That's, going to be hard when we're trying to, create learning objectives and assess how effective we are at developing these soft skills. That this lack of a consistent definition is something that was critiqued in the literature and certainly plays out in practice as we're trying to teach our students these soft skills. And I know for us at Fayetteville State University, we've been hearing a lot about the importance of these soft skills. We've been hearing that employers are asking for this and that we need to be working to develop these skills so that students can get jobs. We hear this a lot, but we haven't really been given a lot of guidelines on what that looks like or how we can best go about, providing these developmental opportunities for our students. We also another barrier is faculty really need to be invested and believe in the importance of these soft skills. And that can be challenging when faculty have kind of learned about their fields in a very different environmental context. So this quickly advancing AI is something that's new to all of us. And so, maybe faculty have a struggle because they're familiar with a field of work that is going to look very different over the next decade. And so I think, faculty investment and why this is important and how the workforce is changing and really being able to educate faculty about that is going to be important to overcoming a barrier to kind of us investing in soft skill development. And some of the research really discussed a lack of financial investment in the development of soft skills among undergraduate students. And so that could potentially be a barrier. I believe that is changing with how quickly AI is developing and how quickly the landscape in the job market is changing. But I really can't speak to that. But that was something that was noted as a potential barrier. So kind of how much financial investment is going into this, or is it just lip service? So that's something to be attending to as well. And so I'm going to share with you just a little bit of initial pilot data that we collected from students at our HBCU, and actually one other HBCU participated as well. Really trying to just get more information about students' process in developing soft skills and really their comfort with soft skills, their confidence in soft skills. And we also asked students what they need to better develop their soft skills. So just some, we actually collected some mixed methods. We did qualitative and quantitative assessment, and we collected data from 80 undergraduate students, all attending an HBCU, and the students were primarily STEM majors. And so our first finding from our qualitative data was that students reported that what they needed really was an increased focus on confidence building, safety building, and practice opportunities. And we haven't actually, to be transparent, done a formal qualitative analysis yet, but these are the, really obvious themes that were emerging from the qualitative data that we collected. So, for example, we asked the question, what do you feel you need to improve most about your professional communication skills? And this is just a subset of comments that really captures the overall kind of theme of the students that were responding. Students saying they need confidence. They need to improve on being more vocal about their opinions. They need to speak up, to believe in myself. I need practicing to feel more comfortable, being more confident in speaking. I have the thoughts and can write them down, but I get anxious speaking. And then we also ask, what do you need to feel more comfortable communicating in academic and professional context? As you can see, we ask these questions kind of looking with a broad definition of soft skills. Our study focused on interpersonal relations and interpersonal communication. And so in developing the ability to feel comfortable communicating in these more professional contexts, students were saying, I need a good, respectful space. I need practice and to work on my nervousness. I need to not feel like the dumbest person in the room. That one's, and the confidence to not feel belittled. I need to feel like there is no hierarchy or like I'm being belittled. I think something I need to feel comfortable with communicating is the safe environment. Feeling like the professor is not my enemy, but trying to help me. And I need to believe in myself more and assert myself. So it's kind of like just a general kind of vibe of what the students were saying in our small sample of the study that we conducted. And another finding from our study was we found that students who reported discrimination experiences negatively impact their self-report on their interpersonal communication skills. So finding that reported everyday discrimination was definitely hindered the development of their interpersonal communication skills. And so this is interesting because it kind of also speaks to kind of what the students were saying in the comments, and what they need is just that in order to develop these interpersonal communication skills, there needs to be safety. And so by, kind of addressing safety and confidence building, not only is that obviously something that can help all students, but maybe it might be particularly important for students who are underprivileged and experiencing discrimination in their everyday lives. And so feeling like that's kind of a relevant finding to share as well in this presentation. And so, what do we do with this? How do we teach soft skills? Soft skills, I think are just incredibly, hard to develop, like hard to, how do we understand, how do we develop? It's not something we can like create a PowerPoint and just teach what are soft skills and students will be able to do it. But really what we're hearing from students and what we're finding is that it's really about building confidence, creating safety, and creating opportunities for students to practice, to try on these skills so that they can better develop their ability to do it in the professional context later. And this, I'm a therapist as well. I'm a psychologist, a psychology professor, but I also practice. And I think a lot in terms of therapy and what we need to grow and to develop. And these findings really kind of made me think of Carl Rogers, one of the fathers of humanistic psychology, and thinking about, what do students need to be able to develop these skills? And from the lens of Rogers, kind of this idea that our students likely already have an innate capacity to be able to develop these skills. So we don't need to pull them along and tell them how to do it. They innately know how to connect interpersonally with other people. The issue is do they have the right environment and context for them to be able to discover these skills? And so, Rogers, came up with the three, important factors that will in the environment that will allow for growth to happen. And that was the need for genuineness, acceptance, and empathy. And so to me, when I think about kind of the feedback we got from the students, it feels less about teaching students the soft skills and more about creating these safe spaces and these safe environments for students to realize their own innate potential to be able to thrive with these soft skills and to be able to develop these skills and being able to relate to others, oversee others, manage others, and be effective. So in that kind of lens and thinking in that way, how do we teach soft skills and how do we create these safe environments and these practice opportunities in all classes, including especially the STEM fields where these things can sometimes be neglected. I'm going to transition over to Dr. Phillips, who actually did, kind of boots on the ground, more of this work of trying to really get get faculty to integrate soft skill development into the classroom, and some of her lessons learned and her findings from this work.
Yes, thank you, Whitney. So before I get started, I, as along with Whitney, wear multiple hats. I'm an assistant professor, but I'm also the director for this Liberal Arts Innovation Center, or what we call it, the Center for the Advancement of Liberal Arts and STEM. So throughout my presentation, if you hear me say CALIS or LAIC, I kind of use them interchangeably, so forgive me. But just to give you all some background on the Liberal Arts Innovation Center, or what I like to call CALIS for short, the Center for the Advancement of Liberal Arts and STEM. And about 4 years ago, December of 2019, FSU received a $300,000 award from the United Negro College Fund to start up a Liberal Arts Innovation Center. And so we, along with 3 other institutions, had a specific focus. So Dillard University had a focus of finance and liberal arts. Talladega had education and liberal arts. Voorhees College had healthcare and liberal arts. And of course, FSU had STEM and liberal arts. And so these 4 institutions were participants of the United Negro College Fund's Career Pathways Initiative, which basically seeks to increase the number of graduates who immediately transition to meaningful jobs in their chosen field. So it's kind of preparing them for the workforce. So you can kind of think of the LAIC or CALIS work as an extension to support that work. And so our overall mission was to provide students with the interdisciplinary combination of soft skills and technical literacy needed for future success and careers in their life overall. And to accomplish this work, our center seeks to provide support to faculty to engage in this work. So our 3 overarching goals are to first test new practices. And this can be anything from digital software to pedagogical approaches that assist STEM faculty in promoting soft skill development into their technical courses, and then also vice versa for liberal arts faculty. And in my subsequent slides, I'll give you guys real world or in the classroom in real time examples of what it looks like to infuse soft skills into technical courses. For the purposes of time, we also did vice versa, where we had technical skills integrated into liberal arts, but because we're focusing on soft skills, I'm going to focus on those for the examples. Our second goal was to pilot new faculty professional development strategies, more specifically, really just providing professional development to STEM and liberal arts faculty members in technical and soft or foundational skills to enhance our efforts to better prepare our students for the workforce. And then our final goal is to, of course, disseminate new knowledge, which will essentially inform faculty and others about best practices for successfully engaging in this work. And so you can kind of see that we're kind of in this third, or approaching this third goal, which is what we're doing now, sharing what we've been learning. And then we're also working on some publications so that we can kind of expound that to the broader community. So that's a little bit of the background on the initiative, or the CALIS initiative. Some of the things that we do are workshops, seminars. We collaborate with industry and institutional partners. We provide collaboration opportunities with STEM and liberal arts faculty. And then we also have a website that is housed on our FSU website. So if you go to the website and just type in CALIS, it'll pop up and you can kind of see what our current activities and tasks are there. And so this kind of is just an overview of all the activities that we've been implementing so far with this initiative. In the beginning, we kind of started with just kind of having informational sessions just so we could get the word out to our faculty and colleagues from other campuses about the types of resources and support that they could receive through our center. And then we also had some events. One event that we had that was really well received from our faculty was this roundtable with tech leaders, where we invited 2 leaders from Honeywell and Honeywell Connected Enterprise and IBM to kind of share what are some of the things that they've noticed with their entry-level employees, and what are some of the things that they are looking for when hiring entry-level employees. And so it was a really kind of informal conversation that these tech leaders were able to have with our faculty, and our faculty were able to take that information back to their classrooms and share it with their students. Another event that we had was this back to school workshop. So a lot of times as faculty, we can kind of be isolated and working and structuring our courses. And so this was an opportunity for it to be informal, for our faculty to come and just kind of pose questions to one another, about any challenges that they could have been experiencing when it came to structuring their courses, focusing on STEM or technical skills or soft skills in their courses, or anything related to course development. And so it was a really good event. It was held virtually. And so, faculty came, submitted questions. We kind of posed the questions to the entire attendees, and they just provided some of the things that they could be doing and implementing in their courses and sharing that with others. I won't go through all of these, but so what I'm going to do next is talk about the STEM faculty workshop that we implemented summer and fall of 2022. And so let me switch to the next slide. So one of the things that we noticed when we started doing this work was we had a lot of liberal arts faculty to participate in our initiatives that we're encouraging them to integrate technical skills into their courses, but it wasn't really happening the other way around. And so we had somewhat of a difficult time recruiting STEM faculty to engage in this work. And I ended up speaking with some of my STEM colleagues, and they mentioned that it would help if there was more guidance and direction on how to infuse soft skills into their STEM courses. So we decided to facilitate STEM faculty workshops. And what we did was had a call for applications for both STEM faculty to be trained and how to integrate soft skills into their courses to promote soft skill development for their students. And then we also had a call for applications for liberal arts faculty to serve as consultants to train the STEM faculty members on how to infuse soft skills into their courses. And so we basically paired our liberal arts faculty consultants with selected STEM faculty for these workshops. And we found this to be a really great success. And I'm going to highlight some of that work now. So this was, I feel like there's a lot of text on this slide, but I'll try to summarize it for you. So this was an experimental foods course in a Department of Family and Consumer Sciences. I forget what university it was, but in that department. And so this course had 3 overall objectives. The first was to prepare students to locate, interpret, evaluate, and use professional literature to make ethical evidence-based practice decision when it came to food preparation. The second was to apply safety principles related to food and consumers. And the third was to apply the principles of food science and techniques for food preparation and application to various recipes, menus, and food products. And so for these workshops, the STEM faculty member had to submit their, I believe it was their CV, their syllabus, and a major assignment for their course to be kind of redesigned and worked on with the liberal arts faculty STEM member, or liberal arts faculty consultant, sorry. And so for this project or this course, the major project was for students to explore different recipes for their final project, and to also learn how to evaluate food based on color and texture. So their plan of action was to first implement an assignment that required students to review and reflect on a peer-reviewed journal article, which in turn promoted their written communication, critical thinking, creative thinking, and problem-solving skills, because the students had to critique the article while also thinking of ways to resolve any limitations within the article. Their second plan of action was to implement a 3-minute elevator talk for the final project, which of course helped to promote their oral and communication skills. And then the third was their final project of an independent research project that allows students to take a recipe and decide how they plan to modify the recipe in 2 different ways. And so for their final project, they also conducted a consumer acceptability test, which helped to promote their time management skills, because they had to they needed time to prepare the food and make sure it was ready when the consumers or their peers arrived to conduct a test. So this course was actually something that I thought was really interesting, because students were able to actually work on in a kitchen preparing one dish in 3 different ways. And so this is just some images from the project, so you can kind of see, they took one recipe, like in the middle here was a recipe for brownies, and so they tweaked the recipe to modify the recipes to have 3 different outcomes. And then they also served these dishes to their peers when they came and did the acceptability test. So this next course was a math college algebra course, and this was designed to prepare students for university level courses using mathematics. And this course is primarily preparation for pre-calculus and calculus students, and it's intended for STEM majors. And so the major project that was submitted for this faculty's application was what is a fair living wage. And so basically what students had to do was research and graph family living wages to determine affordable housing expenses. So what is it that each family needed to be able to afford the housing that they were living in? And so their plan of action was to turn their final project into an oral presentation, because before I believe the faculty member just said that they would submit the report, or like a written report, but instead she added this piece of having the students present it so that they could help to promote their oral presentation skills and time management. And then this professor also incorporated something called starter problems. So for every time they met in class, she would put like a math problem on the board and encourage her students to come and solve the problem in front of their classmates. And one of the things that she noted, because this plan, so she was doing this workshop while she was while she was implementing it in her classroom. And so one of the things that she mentioned was that she noticed that by having her students do these starter problems, that helped to promote their confidence when it came to speaking in front of their peers, and somewhat being vulnerable, because if they didn't understand how to do the problem, it was okay for them to, use each other to help work through the problem. And that in turn helped boost their confidence when it came to presenting their final project in front of their classmates. And so this was just another example of how you can integrate soft skills into a technical course. And just to give you additional information, and I didn't mention this in the last example, but the process for integrating these soft skills was really kind of an organic process. So basically the consultant was provided with the materials prior to like an initial meeting. And then a lot of the pairs just kind of had an organic conversation to explore ideas for integrating soft skills into their technical courses. And for this particular professor, who was a math professor, this professor was partnered with a psychology professor. Whitney, was this you? This was you. Okay. So Whitney actually served as a consultant for this workshop. So I thought this was a really, really interesting pair and product that we were able to present on from our initiative. And these are just some images that this faculty member shared from her work with, I believe it could have been at least 2 courses she implemented this in, if I'm not mistaken. And so, as I mentioned, the students just really were confident in going to the front of the class and speaking in front of their peers. And I believe she even mentioned that in the beginning, students were reluctant to get up in front of their peers, but towards the end, like they would be running to do the starter problems at the beginning of the course. So I thought that was really, really cool. So this last one is a environmental education course. And this course had 3 major objectives, which was to plan, implement, and evaluate quality agricultural education program, and to construct more in-depth knowledge and subjects to be taught and evaluate, appraise, and determine the best use of educational and research inquiry for a program improvement. So basically, for this course, the final project was a mini grant proposal. And prior to, I believe the students just had to submit the grant proposal, but the plan of action to integrate soft skills was to implement an oral presentation for the final project and also do an elevator pitch. And so what this faculty member described was basically students had to do an elevator pitch presenting on what their grant proposal was going to be. And through that small task, they received feedback from the professor as well as their peers. And so they took that feedback, made any edits or additions or edits to their proposed final project. And I believe they had to present it at least one more time before beginning working on their final presentation. And so again, the process for integrating these skills was to first have the consultant review their materials in the initial meeting before the initial meeting, and then just kind of have a conversation when they did meet to explore ideas for integration. And so the professor for this pair was a professor from social work, and then also a professor of agribusiness, applied economics, and agri-science education. And so I thought it was interesting to pair individuals or faculty members who came from completely different fields to also kind of show and exhibit that, like, it doesn't really matter what the expertise is, because we can, as long as you can understand, the overall goal of the project or of the course, we can figure out ways to work together, even though we come from different fields. And so those are the 3 examples that I wanted to highlight and illustrate for you all. And from this work, there were 3 overarching lessons learned. The first was engagement of faculty. The second was measurement of initiative outcomes. And then the third was best practices. So for engagement of faculty, while we're still learning about ways to engage and motivate faculty to engage in this work, one of the things that we found to kind of draw faculty into these initiatives were incentives. So each faculty member received, it had to be at least $1,500. It went from $1,500 up to $2,000 to participate in these initiatives. And we found that this worked because it, having an incentive kind of catches their attention and then allows them to, we capture them, and then it allows them to kind of stir their creative juices and curiosity about how to implement this work. And so, that was an approach that we found to really kind of get faculty on board and begin to engage in this work. When it came to STEM faculty members early on, it was a bit harder to engage them in these initiatives, but we kind of found our niche with the faculty workshops. And we did an exit survey with all of the participants. And one of the consistent themes that I saw with our STEM faculty was initially they were a bit apprehensive to begin integrating soft skills into their courses. But what they found with throughout the workshop was that they were already doing the work, they just weren't being as intentional. And so working with the liberal arts consultant faculty member, they were able to kind of be more intentional when integrating the STEM or the soft skills into their courses. Also, like the timing of engagement. So I know as faculty, once the school semester starts, everything is just kind of hectic until the end of the semester. So when thinking of integrating this work into your course or these skills into your courses, we have found that the best time to do so is during the summer or either at the beginning of the school year, because even though it begins to be hectic, you still have more time to be able to integrate these changes or redesigns into your course. And then as far as like measurement of initiative outcomes, one of the things that we are currently working to do is figuring out how to measure what these outcomes look like to better disseminate these findings. But one of the things that we have noticed is that it can look very different depending on the course and what each faculty member decides to do. So we are taking more so of a qualitative approach, mixed methods, but really kind of focusing on qualitative approach and doing like case studies and really delving deep into the processes for each faculty member integrating these skills into their courses. And so that's kind of where we are now and what we wanted to share. And I guess now we can transition into questions that you guys may have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wall and Dr. Phillips. We appreciate it. And we do have a question in the Q&A. So Narissa is asking, did the professors grade the project or assignments? If so, what process was implemented?
Yes, so I'm assuming that question is for the course redesigns from the workshops that we worked on. And if so, it really kind of depends on which, okay, thank you. It really kind of depends on which course that you're talking about. So for example, the second example that we had, the math course, that professor was implementing that while she was Yes, thank you, the college algebra course. So that was graded at the end of the fall 2022 semester. And that's actually a really good question, because I don't know if she graded them on the delivery of the presentation, but I know one thing that she mentioned was that she noticed the confidence level in her students when presenting. So students weren't so reluctant to, being tied to, staying behind the podium. Like, they were confident in delivering their presentation. Another professor who participated in, and I believe it was the first example with the environmental food, but she actually sent me an email at the beginning of this semester and said that she's been continuing to implement these soft skills into her course. And she says she has noticed that, they're small, subtle changes, but she's noticing that her students are more confident. So, like, they not only are confident in the classroom, but they're also confident when it comes to seeking out other opportunities that will help to grow their skills overall to prepare them for the workforce. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but yeah. I see another question is, what were the main points and the best practices that you have observed so far? Yeah, so one of the other main points were like short-term outcomes and long-term outcomes. So when it came to short-term outcomes, they of course were the student learning outcomes that were kind of listed at the beginning of the semester. So what were some of the things that the professors wanted to note, or that professors wanted to make sure their students were able to learn after going through the course? And then the long-term outcomes were, of course, we're not able really to kind of measure it just as of yet, because long-term outcomes would just kind of basically consist on where do they end up. So, like, do they continue their education in master's programs, or do they continue it by going into the job market? So I know for one of my professors, and this was not a STEM major, this was a liberal arts, not STEM major, STEM professor. It was a liberal arts faculty member, and one of his students, because he was integrating technical skills into his course by introducing them to a software that helped them to basically break down their project. It was like a project management course in a theater, a project management assignment in a theater course. And so because the student was able to kind of learn the skills of how to break down tasks for a project using a software, they were actually hired on set as like some kind of assistant on some kind of I can't remember, but it was like an assistant to like a director, and they were responsible for managing like the different various tasks that it took to produce a show. So I don't know if that really kind of answers your question. We're still in the process of measuring these outcomes so that we can disseminate these findings, so that faculty are able to kind of see, the work that it takes to go into them, and then what it takes, or what it looks like on the other side. So I don't know if that answers your question. Are there any? Oh, I see one.
I see one. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I said I didn't scroll down, but I see, how can online instructors create that genuine and accepting learning environment in a virtual space? That's a great question. So that's actually something that I did. So we have a master's program, an online master's program here at FSU, and I teach a stats course for the first, well, for an 8-week. And so this past first 8 weeks, I used a program called Harmonize. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a really great program that allows students to engage in online discussion boards, either by like the traditional, like entering your text or recording a video and submitting it that way. And so what I had my students do this past semester, I kind of stole the idea of the 3-minute elevator pitch, and I made my students record themselves delivering what they were planning to do for their final project, and they uploaded it, and then students had to respond to at least 2 colleagues providing some guidance and feedback on their video. So I think just trying to get creative with the software and the technologies that are being introduced to us is a great way to do that. A lot of the courses that were redesigned for, I didn't talk about it in this presentation, but we had liberal arts do course redesigns. A lot of those courses were online. And so faculty were able to think of ways to engage our students so that they were able to kind of learn these technical skills or learn the soft skills, even in an online setting. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
I'll also add to that too, because I think I teach an online social and interpersonal communication class, and I have students do a lot of uploading of videos and intentionally trying to teach those skills online. And I've been thinking more about why I can't do that in all my classes. And so why I can't have students online submit these pitches, these elevator pitches, or if we have a paper assignment, why can't I also add a component where they're posting a video online? Because I teach asynchronous primarily, so that's even more challenging. There's not a lot of live interaction, but how they could still be posting videos, and students can have an opportunity to view and comment on the videos. And just providing those practice opportunities just to be able to kind of help with the nerves and the confidence building. And I think also it's easy for us to get in the trap of thinking like, oh, I have to create this artificial like opportunity for them to somehow get this experience. But in reality, like this is the reality now. Like we are connecting professionally right now virtually. So for them to create a virtual video or to do something virtually is very much like exactly what they need to be practicing. So I think keep shifting our mindset in that way too, that, online courses provide just as much opportunity to prepare for this professional communication as do in-person courses.
Yeah, and I'll also piggyback another thing that I've been doing in my courses. So right now I'm teaching a qualitative research methods course. And in this course and my first 8-week, I do like a drop-in Zoom session where I'll just be in I'll send out a Zoom link and I'll let students come and ask me questions either about this week's assignments or our final project. And I have noticed that students are sometimes like apprehensive to even send an email to a professor if they're confused about anything. And so I really try to encourage students to just come, drop in, just ask me anything. Like even if it's about, careers or, what my career trajectory was. Like I've even had discussions with students about that when it was supposed to be, focused on course work, but just by providing that opportunity. So, it's not just behind a computer screen, but they can see me and interact with me, even though it is an online course. So that's just something small that I do. And I mean, I've had about 3 sessions so far this term, and each session has been attended by at least 2 to 3 students. And I've noticed that, upon meeting me or interacting with me, they're more likely to follow it up with an email if they ever have questions about anything. So that's just another thing that they could do. So another question is, do any of the courses do entrance/exit surveys on students' perceptions of what skills they feel they have or need and what they gain after the course was completed. So not all of the courses, but one of the faculty pair, it was a, what was that course? It was it wasn't cybersecurity, but it was in Homeland Security, sorry. So it was a Homeland Security course. And those two faculty members, one was at Elizabeth City State University and one was here at FSU. And basically what they did was co-taught the course. So it was a virtual course, but they met, I forget how many days a week. And so during their meetings, there would be one instructor teaching one day and then the other instructor teaching another. And one would talk about the theories and concepts, and then the other would integrate this software for utilizing Homeland Security data. And so at the beginning of the course, they gave a pre-survey to kind of assess where the students were and their comfort level with utilizing a new software program. And then at the end, they gave an exit survey. And one of the things that they talked about was so the students were not informed of this approach before signing up for the course. And so in the pre-surveys, they expressed they were nervous about taking this course and having to use software because in their minds, they thought that they were just going to be learning about the theories related to Homeland Security. But after working with the software and the professor kind of really taking his time and walking the students through how to use that software, students I feel more confident. This is something that I'm going to add on my resume, that I have experience utilizing this software. So there are some professors who do a pre and post survey, and they talk about what they were able to gain after the course. And this was separate from their evaluations. So I hope that answers your question. Okay.
All right. Are there any additional questions that anyone has? So if not, I think we're good. That's all the time that I guess we have for questions, but thank you so much, Dr. Wall and Dr. Phillips. And thank all of you for attending today. We will be emailing you a link to view the recording of this webinar once it's available. If you or any of your fellow instructors are interested in presenting in our Learning and Growing webinar series, please submit your proposals to the Learning and Growing website, which I'm going to link in the chat right now for you. And if there are, these are free webinars that are brought to you by Hawks Learning. We are an innovative educational courseware company. To learn more about our mastery-based course materials and how Hawks can enhance learning outcomes for you and your students, please visit www.hawkslearning.com. I hope everyone has a great day, and thank you so much for attending today's webinar.
Thank you
For having us.
Great job, ladies.